Good morning, members, and to the viewing public. The chair will now call this budget hearing with Department of Public Lands to order. And at this time, with 10 members of the Standing Committee on Ways and Means present, we have duly established a quorum. So with that, we move to our second order of business, item 2. And do I hear a motion to adopt today's agenda? There is a motion to adopt today's agenda, and it has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Moving along on our order of business, we are now on item 3, public comments. And if there is any members of the public who are here that wish to make comments, you may do so. Seeing that there is no public comments from members of the public, we move further down on our order of business, and that is item 4, introduction and statement from the chair. So at this time, Mr. Secretary Gisomar, and to your team, we thank you on behalf of this committee for coming before this Standing Committee of Ways and Means so that we can discuss your department's budget requests and as well as the governor's budget proposal that was submitted our way for fiscal year 2026. And before we continue on, let me recognize and introduce the members of this standing committee. Starting by myself, I'm Representative J.P. Sablon, Chair of the committee. To my left, I have the Vice Chair, Representative B.J. Atto. And to his left, we have Representative Ralph Yumo. To his left, we have Representative Roman Benavente, and to his left, we have Representative Julie Ogo. To her left, we have Representative Angelo Camacho, and across the aisle, we have Representative Joe Flores. To his left, we have Representative Patrick San Nicolas, and to his left, we have Representative Denita Yangtamay, and to her left, we have Leader Roy Ada, and to his left, we have Representative TJ Manglonia. Also assisting our committee this morning is our bureau staff. We have our legal counsel, Joe Taron, our budget analysis, T.G. Rabago. We have our senior legislative assistant, Ms. Claire Sablon, our IT, Delbert, and also our sergeant at arms, Mr. Pete Tuay. Also assisting the standing committee this morning are folks from OMB, Ms. Jasmine Camacho and Angelica Phillips, to assist us this morning. So with that said, Mr. Secretary, at this time, I give you the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Undang Constitutus Masi, Tiro, Ngalingami, para Hamjo Toru, for the legislature, the House, Chairman, Jani Membru. Guahu si Sixton Kai Parigisomar, Secretary para I Department ni Public Lands. With me today, I have Sir Richard. Sorry, I call him Sir. Sir Richard Villagomez on my left. He's the financial advisor to DPL. And to my right, the director for accounting, Ms. Evelyn, and Ms. Pat, the director for planning, here with me today. And we are here today to meet with you to discuss our fiscal year 2026 budget. And we're stand ready for your questions. Undang Klun Sidus Masi, Tiro Hilso.
Sidus Masi Giliso, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. So let us begin with the questions and answers. So just looking at your worksheet, Secretary, we see that there are perhaps some vacancies that are not yet filled, and some of these vacancies are perhaps not filled for quite a long time. Just to name one, the position of appraiser within the department has been vacant for quite a long time. So perhaps the question to you, Mr. Secretary, is what are the efforts of the department in trying to fill these vacancy positions, and how are we moving along with those efforts as we speak this morning?
Thank you very much, Chairman. So as soon as I was assigned as acting for DPL, I had a big discussion with our directors to find out, to update me with all their missions and goals and objectives for each division. and of course, most especially with admin being in control of all the FTEs or NOPs. And so immediately I informed her that I need all these positions filled. So we went ahead while I was acting and made an announcement on the appraiser. And by the time I became secretary, the paper routed, and now we are routing for the hiring of that person. So that appraiser job should be filled within a week or 2 weeks from today, as soon as all the signatories are complete.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. That's very delighting to hear. As we all know that we had this budget hearing over the years, and it has been this position has been vacant for quite some time. But it's good to hear that we're working forward and trying to fill this appraiser vacancy position. But and just in line with that, since the absence of that position, so I believe that the department has been reaching out with private entities to assist the department in appraising public lands. So my question is how much are the department is the department spending with the absence of this appraiser when you get that professional services outside the department?
I don't remember now the total exact amount, but I believe that can be in our budget details. But as far as the land claims and all homestead, agricultural homesteads, and also for the real estate, all appraisals are hired outside. And those ranges from $700, I believe, at the lowest, up to about $1,000 plus per appraisal report. And so we review those reports, and if we're not comfortable, if our real estate director is not comfortable with the numbers and the assumptions, then we request for another appraisal report to be done on the properties.
Right.
So there is quite a lot.
Yeah, thank you for that response. And this private entity that you are acquiring, or the department has acquired before, or is it here in Commonwealth, or we're getting that services outside the Commonwealth?
So all the appraisals, I believe there's only about two, no, DOSA, and those are all from the CNMI, licensed in the CNMI.
Okay. And if need basis, sometimes the department goes outside and get that professional services. Is that correct?
If need be, but I don't think in my capacity before and current, we haven't gone outside.
Okay. Thank you for that response. So with that, now I open up the floor for any of the members who have questions for Mr. Secretary and his team. And at this time, let me recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Secretary, and to your team. Thank you for joining us this morning. Sorry for the lack of parking and the rain that's going on out there. But with that being said, Mr. Secretary, on the governor's proposal, it states there's $526,062 for professional services. What professional services other than the appraisal that you guys are undertaking?
I have that in our listing. So under the out of the amount under the executive division, we have about $150,000 assigned to it. That's mainly for legal services and for the Attorney General services, and for our set aside fundings to for the Northern Island, Pagan Island travel for the for our planning division. Then our finance, of course, about $60,000. That's mainly for single audit as required. Homestead Division database, $8,000. Land claims, $25,000. Compliance, $50,000, and Manigaha Island, $90,000.
So you guys are paying for services from the Attorney General's office? They
Yes,
charge
we are. We've been doing that ever since I was there, since prior.
How much are you guys paying the AG's office?
Right now, we're pegging it at about 80 grand.
80 grand a year?
With the other legal services combined, 150. No, 89, 120,000. About.
120,000 to the AG's office?
Yes, about, estimated. These are estimated budget costs.
Mr. Chairman, can we take note on that so that that will be 120,000 should be available for appropriation from the AG's office, since they're receiving, charging public lands for that?
So noted.
The minimum on that MOU is actually 80,000.
So there's an MOU between DPL and
There should
and
be.
AG's office
Yes.
for services rendered by the AG's office.
Yes.
Are they allowing you guys to get your own legal services?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the last opinion, there was one case that got returned that they informed us to go ahead and proceed with our own to attain somebody because due to conflict of interest.
Just for that specific case.
Yes, for that case.
But everything else, they still charge you the same rate,
They represent us a flat rate of this.
a flat rate.
This is a flat rate for the, and we house them and they have a room in our office.
Okay. Does DPO still have outside? How many revolving accounts? Sorry.
What do you mean by revolving? The entire account of public land is one fund in Bank of Guam.
Oh, one fund for everything. So everything's being lumped in from Manega landing fees.
With the
on-
Department of Finance, yes.
Okay. And how much is in that account?
Currently, I would estimate about 8 million,
$8 million.
not counting the restricted funds, $6 million,
How much is restricted?
about 2 million. And those are security deposits. Basically, those are the required for all lessees when they come into the cinema and use
Sure.
our properties.
Sure.
They put down a year's annual.
Okay. So this $6 million is accessible for the fiscal year, correct?
Yes, it's used for the fiscal year.
Okay. So the submission from the administration that puts out $5+ million for DPL or $4.8 million. So there's an availability of about $1.2 million.
Yes, if you do a cross math on it like that, yes.
Is this the $1.2 million that MPOT is trying to take from you guys, or trying to?
So for clarity and clarification purposes, it's not that MPOT tries to get it. Whatever is excess at the end of the fiscal year, we release after we subtract and make sure we have reserves for the fiscal year function. So for example, this current fund that you're looking at of about $6 million, that's funding FY25
FY25.
at the same time. So by October 1st, it will start funding FY26.
Okay. And
So, yeah, go ahead.
go. Sorry, Secretary.
And so the FY25 will take approximately about maybe $1 to $2 million out of this six, approximately. And that's how, when they did the projection for the FY25, the directors and along with the finance did a projection on all leases and TOAs
Okay.
and estimated that within the year we'll collect so much amount. And so that figure that you see of about $4.892 million is not an arbitrary number. It's based on the expected collection that will occur, subtracting all those hotels that were expiring this year.
Okay.
So there will be more, yes. So if we just do a cross line like that, Vice Chair, and you end up with about $1 million, and then next year, if all the other hotels come online, like Managaha coming online, Canoa coming online, Water Resort, that fund will increase. And of course, after we finalize our reserve amount to reserve for a fiscal year operation, FY27 and 26 and 27, then they will be released to MPOT via, of course, discussion with the Department of Finance.
Okay. With you brought up Manega, was DPO able to collect all the penalties and all that from the previous holder of the?
Maybe I'll hand over to Richard. There was an offset, right, or something on the deposit.
Yes, Vice Chair and committee members. It's actually under the appeals process. I'll just speak in generalities. We're almost concluded with that, but we did manage to get the most of the fees that were due, the past due rents, and some penalties, and also recovered some of the costs that DPO had to expend, which were supposed to be taken care of by the previous concessionaire. So the answer is yes.
All right. Thank you for that. And that there's an ongoing negotiation for the Managaha concession stand again,
Are you referring to the RFP?
or RFP?
Yes, the RFP is completed in Managaha. The review committee is done as of last week. Right now, I'm just waiting for real estate director, acting director, to put the evaluations on my desk to concur the selection by the committee today. So by this week, we should know who the winner is. I'm hearing that there was a favorable individual or company entity, and so we should be announcing that by the end of this week on the successful entity who submitted the response to the RFP, and we'll start working on an agreement if I review and it's all favorable.
Okay. And speaking of that, and I apologize for bringing this up because this was one of the challenges that we faced with the Managaha issue. Was that DPO was in a position of amending its regulations back then to accommodate the lesser of the property. Sorry, lesser of the property. Through regulations. When the RFP went out, was that included in the RFP? Was there gonna?
I was not there at that time, so I'll refer to Mr. Richard.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Secretary. Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is the amendments to the regulation that was brought up by the previous under the previous secretary. Those, and then we had numerous public hearings on that. A lot of feedback from the not just the public in general, but also the concession, or I'm sorry, the service providers that are out there, like the parasailers, banana boat, and the transporters. A lot of feedback, some positive, mostly not in favor. But I think those regulations are still being considered. There's no final decision yet. I think that happened around the time when the previous secretary was outgoing and Mr. Somar was incoming. So we'll probably revisit that and then make a decision on how to proceed with the proposed regulations or whether or not to proceed with it.
So may I ask, and this is out of our jurisdiction, but is it possible for this body to get the contractual agreement of whoever the RFP, the winner of the RFP, just to see if there's some conflicting stuff that we discussed back then that maybe we can discuss with DPO before moving forward with the agreement?
Yes, Vice. Number one, on that regulation that Sir Richard was talking about, I have no clue about it, and I do not want to entertain it unless they bring it to my attention, so I don't know what that is. Anyhow,
Sure.
As far as the agreement, all agreements, once signed by the Secretary and Attorney General, are public documents.
I do
So I'll give it to you.
understand that, Secretary.
So I'll give it to you once you ask for it.
Yes, I do agree. I do understand that, and I appreciate you saying that. But the concern with the previous holder, or maybe not the concern of the previous holder, but the amendments that they agreed, or they signed off a contractual agreement, and they were requesting for amendments. At the same time, DPO was in the position of changing its regulations to accommodate the lesser than. So we're kind of worried moving down the road, knowing the fact that the DPO is providing them with the structure, the generator, the supplies and stuff. Because I know that one of the things what they were trying to do was DPO was already paying them the landing fee for some operational costs. That's a loss on DPO's side in collections.
So still, sorry, Vice, I do not understand what those regulations were, the proposed amendments.
Sure.
So I
And
don't know
that's
what
why
they are.
that's why I apologize before I brought it up. But you mentioned that Managaha is in the process, so we want to make sure that before we get to the final contractual agreement, that we don't face these types of issues down the road again. And we shouldn't be involved in that when there's already a contractual signing between DPL and whoever's leasing the property, right? But when there's concerns when the contract states a lot of these stuff, but they're trying to amend regulations to accommodate the person leasing the property, the entity leasing the property. That's where we get involved, right? And we don't want to we want to respect your process in negotiations, and on top of that, we want to make sure that DPO gets the collections that it should be getting, rather than spending it on the concessionaire.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. And just, I might get in trouble, but I was a secretary negotiating that Managaha before it kicked off, and there was nothing wrong with it. Nothing. Everything on that agreement was as is per regulations.
Yeah.
Whatever the investor's saying, I can safely say that I wouldn't care. When we negotiated that, everything was there. Now, furthermore, coming into the future, now whatever they're claiming, the AG has been very clear. Whatever's in the reg is in the reg. Whatever's in the agreement is in the agreement. Nothing can be changed to satisfy anybody who's new, especially when a lease is already ongoing, unless there's some statutory amendments. But I think whatever exclusivity they know, they don't know, that thing was all very clear. So same thing with the current RFP proposal. We understand that Managaha Island is our island, and the exclusive that they try not to understand is that it's that zone only, that box. That's the box where you will operate. Anything else outside that box, you have no jurisdiction. So maybe that's what they were trying to expand.
And I agree with you, and thank you for your negotiations. Unfortunately, all those amendments that were being brought up was when you were out, and we shouldn't go down this route because this is a budget hearing. But you brought up the Manigaw issue, and we wanted to make sure that stuff right. If we want to talk about regulations, we can get down to the Hyde issue, and we don't want to get through that right now. Let's stick to the budget process, and let's work with you guys and see. I understand that you guys get your money, and you guys are going to use your money. And I know that MPOT has been requesting for more payments to them, and we want to work with you guys to see how much more we can collect. And at the end of the day, our actual distribution under the general fund through its interest earned would be helpful to the general fund moving forward. But I yield my time for now, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations again, Mr. Secretary, for your appointment and for accepting the position.
Thank you, Vice. Just follow up on your statement, Mr. Secretary. You mentioned that Maniagaha, Canoa, and including Rhoda Resort is right now being maintained by the Department of Public Lands, right? Is that correct? And what are the costs associated just by maintaining? And I know that you're still maintaining also Maranas Resort as we speak. Is that correct?
Yes. So I think we estimated about 50-50, about $100,000 plus for those maintenance. And if you're wondering like what kind of cost it is, we're looking at approximately, I would say, $3,000 to $5,000 every 2 to 3 weeks. So in a month, you can spend about, because this is like for security services. So for the security services, you can spend close to or over $10,000 in 1 month.
In 1 month.
Per location. So you're looking at Maniagaha and you're looking at Can Pacific. Currently, PIC, Canoa Resort.
Canoa.
We have proposals that we sent out, soliciting proposals from vendors. Eventually, it will get to, because it's temporary, at the same time, we're trying to release an RFP for Canoa Resort. And so the announcement times through Procurement Division, Department of Finance, versus whether we'll solicit. So we're submitting our proposals to Department of Finance to authorize us to solicit these proposals for security services for Canoa. Meanwhile, absent that, we have our staff that are doing the security guard services in Canoa.
For the meantime.
For the meantime. We're rotating our staff 24/7.
And then with regards to Canoa, are there any efforts to like RFP?
Yes, the RFP has been drafted, Honorable Chairman, since before I got confirmed, and we're still ironing out details. So hopefully, unfortunately, we had a director who also left our department, who's highly involved in that. So our acting director is working on all the documents, and hopefully we can receive that, release that RFP for Canoa by next week, hopefully.
Okay. And what are the maintenance efforts from the Department of Public Lands with regards to Rhoda Resort? Are you guys like maintaining the grass or?
Currently, at
or
the
just
moment, there is none.
No maintenance efforts at that site?
None at the moment. We have a director as well for Rhoda, and when I arrived, our director for Rhoda has been in and out, being ill, and we've been trying to coordinate. I traveled down to Rhoda and met with the mayor, and we're looking at our options. I know that I asked the acting director to solicit for proposals for security guard services, but with the mayor of Rhoda, we're working on documentations to finalize our MOU for them to come in and assist us in cleaning the resort.
Okay, and that's in the works.
Yeah,
as we speak.
that has been in the works. We've been so occupied with the hearings, traveling back and forth, and so now and then this budget. So I have a lot of pending tasks that I need to jump on, and that includes the MOUs. And so for the department, although we have directors, as a secretary, I currently do not have any advisor or a assistant, special assistant. So everybody is fully loaded.
Right.
So a lot of these things, I'm working 24/7 to handle them at the same time,
Thank
to
you
make
very
sure I'm
much.
responsible for you guys.
Thank you very much for your very hard work, Mr. Secretary. I know that this work with the Department of Public Land is nothing new to yourself. You've been there in the past, and I know that you're also assisting your great staff, right, in moving forward with the duties and responsibilities of the department. So thank you with that response. I open it up for any other of the members that has questions. Let me recognize Representative Julie Ogo.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Sixto, for coming in today, and also congratulations again on your confirmation.
Thank you.
In line with Chair's question on, with Rota Resort, I know that you guys are soliciting for security services right now, right? But currently, is DPL coordinating with DPS Rota to monitor the area in the meantime?
In response, I would say quasi. The former secretary attempted to make MOUs with the mayor and DPS of Rota. And so that is a little bit grayish, meaning to say that there were confirmations, but at the same time, there were conflicts involved with the schedulings.
Yeah.
And I do not understand the issues. All I know currently, just sitting there, is that they will be driving in there. So I don't know whether during their time or during special consideration time. But they were informed, coordinated with the former secretary.
Okay, that's the information that I was also provided. Being, I guess partially, getting that services from DPS, is there any compensation that DPL is providing DPS just to even just drive in, like maybe some fuel or something?
DPO is not authorized to pay any form of compensation for salaries for any department or agencies in the CDMI. So the AG was very strict, and so it's a very sensitive issue. As you understand, MPOT is not letting this go as well. They want to make sure that DPO does not pay unnecessarily for things that are outside of our operations. So the MOU was structured in a way whereby DPS will visit the sites, and then fuel will be allocated to DPS to compensate, but not payroll.
Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, the MOU, and I'll just say a little bit more, just to be transparent, the MOU was so strict that it hurt some people. As soon as you enter my property, I would charge you 0.25 cents per mile. And as you know, if you drive in there and drive out, you're not going to make 25 cents. So that's the issue.
Thank you for that. Also, I know since the closure of Rota Resort, there has not been any maintenance at all. And, according to your regulation, you're supposed to be maintaining the property, correct?
Yes, and so when I met with the acting director, Rhoda, when I went down there for my hearing, that's why I was trying to push the MOU with our mayor. We already received the structure from the mayor. It's just a matter of me finalizing the MOU with her so that we can proceed forward. But yes, at the moment, no one is taking care of the resort. I visited the resort. It's poor condition. It's so unfortunate that our people are not respecting the properties that are owned by the government or public lands, and so they just basically broke all the glasses there in the front desk
Yeah.
area. So it's totally damaged. But I'm just praying and hoping that once we get things in order, it will suppress it down. So at the same time, we're making signs that will billboards that will be posting at every public land infrastructure hotels, including Rota, to hopefully inform the people that this is a public land, this is your land, this is NMD's land, please do not damage it. Just to put some more
Right,
deterrent
because
signs.
it really depreciated the property.
Yes.
Yeah, the value of the property.
But
And in line,
we've received proposals already for Rota Resort.
I understand
So that one will be under review starting this week or next week. The acting director for real estate is currently working on a documentations opening so that they can give it to the reviewing committee.
okay, thank you. That was actually my next question. Also, in regards to land compensation, we are currently trying to, upgrade the Route 100 in Rhoda, and I believe I'm not sure how many landowners are still waiting for compensation, but one did reach out to me, which you're probably aware of. I know it's not, that landowner accepted that offer of about $107,000. And I understand that you don't mind sharing, the status of that owner in this hearing. Can you go ahead and expound on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question.
And if it's on the list of compensation.
Just briefly, I know that claimant when I was acting secretary. When I was secretary before, we worked with that claimant. And of course, I left. I was surprised to find out that he's still there with the same issues. So I jumped on it and helped it out. And so just to briefly elaborate the land compensation process. So as we all know, the government agencies would take private lands. The governor and the agencies would confirm, certify that we need to take. Then they give these lands papers over to public land, through land claims. Oh, she's not here. Still. Through land claims, and she processed those things. And while she processed the land claims, all the appraisals, all the negotiations again, verifying, validating the agency negotiations for the taking, for example, Public Works for Rhoda, right? And so then we give them an offer letter. This offer does not mean that public land will pay it, because based on the opinions, it is the general fund that will pay this, not DPL. So a lot of our claimants were getting confused, thinking that DPL must pay it. And so that's where the drama started. They start knocking with every secretary that comes in, how come you haven't paid me? So with this particular client, these things were in order. However, the process is as soon as the offer is signed by all the claimants, and I'll come to the numbers real quick, it goes to Secretary of Finance to sign. And once she signs, compensation is released, right? So it clears the Secretary and Attorney General of Finance. However, with our new secretary being very strict on the law, she will not sign a compensation if there's no money to pay it, rightfully so. So a lot of those people, including your client or the client from Rhoda, never got paid because one, it was never signed. Two, there's no appropriation. Three, there's no money in that fund to pay for land claimants. So as soon as I came back in, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Madam, I wrote a letter to the Governor, Speaker, Senate President, AG. Here is about $8 to $9 million of judgments in the entire CNMI that are ready to be paid. I sent that letter out. Then just last week, I sent another letter out. An addendum supplemental to that letter, another $1 million added to the judgment to be paid. So that's now about $9-ish million. Then on my desk, which is now being reviewed to make sure everything is proper, will include that person you just mentioned. And that will be up to $11 million, a supplemental coming to the governor and the leadership of the legislature will now total $11 million. And that list, that is, I finalized last Friday and pending certification by land claims, will leave the office to the governor again and the speaker and Senate President and the AG. The person you brought up is the last person on that list. That's another $1.some million. So a total of $11 million for land compensation will be is unnoticed to the governor and the legislature.
Okay, just for clarification, Secretary, so 11 million land compensation, because land compensation and land judgment is two different, right? Or are you adding all that in totality?
Yes.
Including compensation and judgment?
So that's why I made sure I separated it, Chairman. The judgment, I made it at $9 million plus.
9 million plus.
And another judgment coming in, another $1-some million, 9-ish to 11, 9-ish. And then the last one made it 11, which is all the right-of-ways that are not judgments. So I made sure I clarified that on the list.
Okay, and everything is in totality about 11, roughly
Yeah,
11.
more than $11 million.
So can I make that an official request by this August body that we get that, since that is a public document already, as
So,
we speak?
yes, Chairman. So the judgment, you have the judgments because they're court orders with the names.
Right.
But the last list of about $1 million,
Right.
which includes Mr. Manglonia, I asterisk all the amounts so that I do not show. I showed their name, but I did not show how much they're getting.
Okay.
I just showed the total of those people at the bottom.
So-
And sorry, Chairman, last one. And just so we know, while we're not paying these land claims, they're gaining 3% interest daily basis.
Right, right.
So the numbers will change.
So are you in liberty to accept our request officially that if you can provide that figures and listing to this August body so that
Yes.
we
So I send one to I send both letters to the speaker.
Right,
we
but-
will forward you a copy to
yes,
Chair.
because you mentioned that you're currently just like recently updating this
The last
as
one.
of last week, right? So
Yes.
if we can get that information, Rep. Julie, you still have the floor.
Pretty much, I got the answer, Ms.
Okay,
Secretary, so I yield.
Let me for follow up. Let me recognize the Vice Chair.
Just as a follow-up question, Secretary, thank you for bringing this issue up. Actually, it's something that's being presented to the legislature on all different angles, right? From the judgments to those that are our own land compensations that chose not to go the judgment route. I think it's, at least as the chairman of the Ways and Means, I think it's important that we receive the listings of those that are not under judgments with the total amount. I think it's important that we see that, so that let's say we appropriate money, and we're obviously not going to list them down in the budget process of who's going to receive what, but at least when we appropriate the funds, that it'll be clear that it's not only for judgment, it's also for land taking, all right? Because a lot of the previous distribution of funds were based on land judgments or government judgments, and government judgments are inclusive of lawsuits to the hospital, to CUC, to DPS, to all the government entities, and it never trickles down to the land compensation. So I think it's important that we get the exact number. Maybe, I know that it's going to be a moving target now, Secretary, and it's very unfortunate that we're asking for this, but maybe something that's, if it's based on the 3%, if the 3% is going to be at the end of the fiscal year, so that 3% is based on the calculations of September 30, 2025, that you'll be sending to us, so that if the budget gets into place by October 1st, we actually hit the target number that's owed to these individuals, whether it's judgment or just off the 3%. Because the issue that we're receiving from the legislative side for land compensation is that the recommendation from the legal counsel of DPL is to file a lawsuit against the government for their land compensation, which is very unfortunate. We're just happy that the percentage of judgments in the government is now down to 3%. Rather than 9%, because if the push is that, there's an agreement with the sorry, I forget, lost my train of thought, but with the membership of the Bar Association, there's an agreement that 37% goes to legal fees right off for land issues. So if the position of DPO's legal counsel that's under the AG's office is to advise these individuals to file lawsuits against the government, I mean, who's playing who? Because are they getting a cut of this 37%? Should they pursue that route? It's very unfortunate that your own legal counsel that's representing your office is advising these individuals to file a lawsuit. That's really unfortunate. From our side, when we received that, it's very unfortunate. You've been on our seats, Secretary, and you know that we get certain informations like that from our constituents. And it's unfortunate. It's unfair to you guys. Maybe you guys don't even know about it. But if the legal counsel representing the Department of Public Lands is notifying land claim or landowners that are owed monies to file a lawsuit, that's really bad. please.
So, we should also give thanks to Mr. Manglonia, the client that Rora is bringing up, because he actually pushed two questions that forced this release of the letters. So there has been communications with public lands or MPLC before and this body, and everything has been just verbal. I don't think there has been, or maybe, but in my recollection, any form of written request to the governor, AG, speaker, president on this land compensation. So this client was ready to sue DPL and me personally for signing the offer letter. Because in their observation, if I sign the offer, I must pay the offer, irrespective of whether it's the government or whether we have statements down there. So the drama started accumulating with all the other land claimants who are beginning to bind together to state that if you have this offer and you're not paying, when are we going to get paid? Why is so-and-so in the court getting paid? So this drama starts building, and so the issues that land claims was reviewing was how to mitigate the complaints that are coming in, and whether an option should be given to the claimants whereby either you accept the letter now as is, as we've already negotiated, and if you don't want, then take us to court. That was the beginning of that story, of how it's ending up where we're telling them to sue us, to sue the government. So it's that drama, because I have been very uncomfortable. And so the Mr. Manglonia got the same story. Oh, we're not responsible to pay you. So the question is, who's going to pay me? The legislature hasn't appropriated. I went up there. So the individual went up to the legislature. He was told, I don't know what you're talking about. So the person came back. So of course I need to help this person out. So that's why when we went to court on some cases, even the judge was wondering, who's supposed to pay these claimants? The legislature. What fund? There's a legislative fund for appropriation for land compensation. We looked it up. It's to be funded by the casino, right? But the casino is not there anymore. Therefore, no money is going to that fund. Therefore, finance can't pay the stuff. And so the judge asked everybody in the room, do you know about this payment? Did you tell the legislature? The legislature, do you know? So everybody was mum. So I took the liberty to write the letter to address to our governor, AG, speaker, president. So now I can at least exonerate DPL and save our position to say, okay, claimants, I've sent it. And that's why you brought up the letter, right? So it came down to the question, is there a list to the legislature? In the past, the answer has always been yes, ungan, but where's the copy? So now, I believe that by doing this process of sending the letter out, it's now official on our part that we've released it. But Chairman and Vice Chair, that's not the last list. I still have millions of compensation coming up. The only reason why we've released that is these individuals who have been waiting, about 20 of them, 20 to 21 of them, have been waiting and finally are going to be on this list that never came to you before. So we hope that this would help all of us out, DPO and legislature. And maybe it does not answer that question that the Vice brought up about, am I telling the claimants to sue the government? But it was that discussion of, what do I do now when the claimants are pressuring public land? You know, why you need to pay, you're the one that signed it, you must pay. No, we need for general fund to be appropriated. I don't care about general fund, you signed it. And we're saying, no, it's the seat of my government. And if you don't agree, then sue me or sue the government. So that's how that drama occurred. And if and maybe when we go back to public land, we can discuss this more with our council, how to, word these things a little better and not come out very offensive and aggressive towards our CNMI legislature and the general fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And no, I'm not saying that you were advising them. I'm just saying that they're saying that it's coming directly from the council, right? So I want to make it clear that these individuals are not part of the judgments. And it's very unfortunate that when we do big appropriations, we include the term judgment on it, and it's not specific to land claims or anything like that, because the first initial payments would be first come, first serve, and a lot of the judgment cases are from the hospital, from DPS, from other government entities, that were paid out. But it's it's here, it's before us, and we look forward to getting that list from you, and we look forward to figuring out a way to on paying the land claims for our people and relieve you guys with some stress and headache. But we thank you again. I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice. Mr. Secretary, let's kind of switch to your MOA or perhaps MOU with Division of Parks and Recs, right? Because I know that we have you already tonight, this morning for a budget hearing, and we have scheduled DLNR for the 17th. So since we're here already, which is budget related, how's that MOA or MOU going on? Are you still paying for those staff of Parks and Rec as we speak, based on this fiscal current budget?
So the direct answer to your question is I haven't paid them anything.
So, is there any MOA or MOU executed as we speak? Because the budget reflects that there is this agreement, right, with DPL to pay these folks. So, perhaps maybe we're going to have to bring that question to OMB, who's paying it now if you guys are not paying it, right? So, that's why we brought that question up to you.
So thank you. I was just trying to be direct with the response, saying the answer is no. On the payment of whether I'm still paying, so the answer is I haven't started paying. And so on the MOU, there is an MOU between the former Secretary of Public Lands and DLNR, right? DLNR. So don't mean to say former. It's with Public Land, but with the former. And so that MOU, it existed that the DLNR would be supporting and helping public lands with all public land properties, and with some terms and conditions in there. I did receive, as soon as I landed in DPO again, I received 2 to 3 invoices to pay. So I reviewed the MOU and called the secretary up and just informed him that I'd like to review this MOU further before I start paying for services. So there are some things that needs to be clarified within the invoice. Again, like I said earlier, when you ask question about ROTA and DPS, DPL is not to pay the payroll of all DPS officers for visiting the site. So similarly to DLNR, I'm not supposed to just pay DLNR's Park and Rec's payroll based on that MOU. As per the AG and opinions, I need to make sure that the services are direct, and that MOU stated it's direct and supervised by DPL staff.
Right.
So in other words, I'm going to have to hire a DLNR staff to be a DPL staff to follow every bush cutter out there, right? Which is, it just became, so in reviewing it, it's something where I sent over to compliance, naturally, and to finance to review, and for me to just sign the check. But it came with questions. So I've already spoken to the secretary that I'm highly favorable to continue to honor that MOU, but we just need to iron out some details in the invoices.
Okay, so as we speak, there is a executed MOU.
There is an executed MOU.
Okay, that agrees upon paying these individuals from Parks and Rec, right?
Yes, the MOU stated that I shall pay DLNR for all maintenance of every public land in the CNMI.
Okay.
For services rendered.
With no dollar value of maximum. And so if DLNR sends me a $3 million bill, I'm supposed to pay it.
Oh.
So that's what I'm talking about. There's details I need to review
Okay.
to make sure that this is not an outright authorization for me to pay for any payroll. It has to be
Right.
within
Okay.
the MOU.
So since your inception back to the DPO, you haven't paid, right? Based on this MOU, because you want to clarify some things.
Yeah, I will outright, Chair, I want to pay it.
Okay.
But I need to make sure it's in compliance with the AG's opinions and that the MOU is not violating
All right.
anything, otherwise
So
it will be null and
clarified.
void.
So clarified. So
But I will.
I guess my question to OMB, since these individuals with the invoice that they were given to DPL, what source of funding is paying these individuals? Are they being paid or they're not being paid as we speak?
Currently, they're being paid out of the general fund at 100%. In the budget, they're cost shared between DPL at 50-50. So DPL should be rendering or the shortfall of that 50%
Okay,
of
so,
that 100%.
okay, thank you for that clarification. So Secretary, the invoices that are before your desk are, how many months back are these invoices? Or how many payrolls back are these invoices before your desk right now?
I can't recollect, but I think that MOU was signed in October last year.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And so, so question again to OMB, I see that based on the budget submission, right, from DPO, under personal, there's like variances of 143,000 on fringe benefits. Are we intact with fringe benefits with regards to the staffs of DPO? I'm just looking at the variances on this analysis here.
Those are proposed based on active members
Okay.
of those fringe benefits.
Okay, and then I see a variance of, on the budget submission of the governor under OPA fees, right? And it states here that the governor's proposal proposed 48,441, and department submission is 48,925. I think the 48,925 is more accurate if you calculate it based on the 1%. So is that a kind of typo from,
No, it's not. 48441 is 1% of total personnel and all others together. What makes the 4.8 million 92548 is inclusive of the OPA fee.
oh, okay, so inclusion of the OPA fee. So you don't take what the department or the governor's proposal and factor that and extract the 1% out of the OPA?
No, it's 1% of total
Inclusive.
personnel and all others.
And inclusive, okay.
And-
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any questions from the members? Let me recognize Representative Ralph. You want?
Thank you, Chairman. And just to switch to the other side of the, with regards to DPL, normally we get notices with regards to homestead projects. During budget hearings, we would get notice that this is the plan of DPL where they're exclusive of what was submitted. They're planning to spend X dollar amount for any homestead improvement, or if they're still expanding on homestead program.
Chair, Congressman Yumachusmasi, thank you very much for that. The former secretary submitted a budget, and yes, you're correct. When I was secretary before, I submitted my dream list of things that are urgent that I could not accommodate within the budget. I haven't had the real time to actually come up with a supplemental or request for conditional approval or whatever underneath the budget. And of course, I didn't really act on it at the same time, since I was informed by the directors that the last time I did that, nothing was done about it with the legislature. It was aware, but the conditions were not added into the budget for me to be able to spend more. But if you're willing and the body's willing, we can generate a list of other things that we need to spend for homestead and improvements, as I mentioned also during my hearing, most especially planning. We need more ATVs, we need UTVs, we need the government sort system, all the surveying systems, we need to update them. They have a software that was authorized by Public Law 15-2 for DPO that they don't even have. So even that one's going to cost us up to $80,000 a year for membership. For subscription, we don't even have that. So those things were not added. So the budget submitted by former secretary, a lot of them, she zeroed out a lot of stuff. And I don't blame her for zeroing them out. It's because she was looking at the estimated revenue coming in at $4.8 million, her projection on that revenue. And that's why she hesitated to add all these other things to try and request from the legislature for an authorization conditional that if the revenue kicks up, if DPO is able to accommodate those costs, if we can find the funds for them. But if it's all right, I'm more than willing to send a letter to this body requesting for a, whatever we call, the budget. We have this language at the bottom, administrative provision that we could spend for those if funds do authorize or become available. But that one at this time, Congressman Taza.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yes, I I was expecting that there is some plans with regards to, the homestead programs in the first, second, and third senatorial district. There's just additional expenditure for you, DPL. But there is an ongoing projects, is that correct, with?
Yes,
Homestead?
currently the goal I have is to release, and I'm working, and as I mentioned in my hearings, I'm working with DPW and with CRM to have their favorable consideration to authorize our permittees to actually build on a homestead property that is lacking infrastructure. So, based on my conversation with Secretary Yumo of DPW, under his building code, we found a section that can authorize him to be able to be favorable for a permit for a home builder to start if they have alternative options for sewer and water. And so I've already written a letter to CRM asking them for their favorable consideration as well. And I think they want me to see the board to see if they're favorable in having a, for example, a homestead residential single-family unit that could be authorized for them to build something on a homestead area that has no infrastructure. Otherwise, if those things fail, there's two schools of thoughts. If they fail, then what's the use of giving homestead permits out? Because if I give a permit, they can't build if there's no infrastructure. So we're talking about Dugi, Finafa, those areas, and also Gizatinian is ready to go roll out. Marple Heights Phase 3 is ready for me to just release the lottery and issue permits. We're ready. And Ascona, we're ready. We're just waiting for these agencies. And if they say no, then we're going to have to pull back. But I'm willing to move forward with issuing the permits, most especially for Tinian and Rhoda. And then the funding that you're talking about, most of these things does not have the cost. I went through Castizo, Tinian. You look at the map, it looks so small. You look at it, and I go, "Oh, this is what I'm going to give out for agricultural homesteads for Tinian." I drove through there during the funeral service of our past director, Bernie. It's a very big area. And so there are people that are complaining as to why is public land using funds to make roads. We are not making roads. We are not doing infrastructure road. We are paying for bulldozers because there's no way our surveyors can map that entire Castizo area walking on foot. You literally need an access road. And so those are the things why I am sure that even the former secretary did not put in there, because she's getting bombarded by opinions from other agencies or MPOT, for example, saying stop spending money on roads. But before, we would put in a cost to supplement fuels to the mayor. And that's why I also spoke to some of the mayors. Maybe you can talk to the legislature. Give public land $100,000 for each senatorial district. But if everybody's so concerned that I'm spending money on infrastructure on roads, give it to the DPL from general fund, 100 grand to each senatorial district or more, and then I'll use that general fund to have this access cleared up. Castillo is one of them. Finafa is also a very big area, and we literally need a bulldozer, whatever you call them, to clear the path. And right now, we've assisted with the mayor, cost sharing with the few and the military, IRP, whatever you call that. So I went through there. They're growing back again. And so we need help on resources. And so I thank you as well, Congressman, for that question. And I'll do my best to send in some sort of a quasi-request that if funds become available in DPL or fund revenue generation as a result of all these RFPs being satisfied, or if there's a general fund funding that we can use.
Thank you, Secretary. Last question, Chair, if I may. Just looking at the revenue forecast, I guess over 600,000 decrease for this upcoming fiscal year, and with your manpower, your basic is going to dip into your your revolving account or your savings. So, is there any, I guess, interest in the hotels to augment at least the 600,000 that's projected for this upcoming fiscal year?
So maybe let me see if I understand it first, the question, Congressman. The budget that we're submitting for your approval is a dollar figure of 4.8 million, including OPA 1%. That's the budget and the numbers within all the divisions, whatever they've done through the categories, is what we're projecting to collect. Even if we collect more than 4.892, even if all these other hotels like Kanoa come online and pay us, we will not spend more than 4.8. So all those hotels will generate more revenue for us, maybe close to $800,000 additional if they all go online per year. But we will only spend the 4.8. So based on your initial question, what we're saying is if we get more revenue, as you're stating, from these hotels and Managaha coming online, and it goes above 4.8, then we can use that fund for anything that's qualified through this body, qualified through administrative provisions that we can use, if allowable. But we will not spend more than 4.8.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. No further.
Thank you, Rep. Yumo. Just follow-up question on the line of question with regards to Homestead, Mr. Secretary. So with regards to Asgono here, what is the required and assessed figure to bring this perhaps water piping or sewer piping to where where the next near pipings are, which is perhaps on the road, or if I'm not mistaken? Because I know that you mentioned that there's going to be a need of general funds to provide these developments, right? Because as we speak right now with the funding that you have, you guys don't have that authority by Constitution to use those funds for infrastructure.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, Chairman, before I left public land, we estimated about $50 to $80 million for all the homesteads in the CNMI to go online. That's power, water, sewer, for all of them. Asgono, I think it was a little more than 10 million or closer to $18 million, 11 million. So Asgono's infrastructure at 11, but 3 years ago, that $11 million is from a 3 to 4 years ago estimate. So that 11 maybe is doubled or close to doubled for just Asgono alone.
Perhaps, yes, with the inflation of construction materials, perhaps, yeah. But what are the efforts, if there is, between DPL and CUC? Because if you look at it, this is actually CUC's actually jurisdiction or purview, right? To make sure that we have these infrastructures.
Yes, so before I left, the funding that was available for that area was from ARPA funds. So right before I left, ARPA funds has been calculated with the former Secretary of Department of Finance that this funds is available. We're going to proceed. DPO engaged CUC for all the drawings, A&Es. So they were going and moving forward. Then I left. Then all of a sudden, ARPA disappeared. So now that I'm back, there's no ARPA funds for all those infrastructures, so there's no money. And so the question now that I've heard, but I don't know who is responsible for the infrastructure. Right. Is it CUC or the general fund? So at the moment, I don't know. So with public land is not able to plan anything. The only thing I was angling for is working with DPW and CRM to please agree to disagree to allow the homesteader permittee to build.
Right. So
Otherwise,
when you say before you left, there was already an arrangement with ARPA funds, right?
Yes.
ARPA to DPO or ARPA within CUC?
It was ARPA to DPO in the beginning, and then CUC requested a meeting with Secretary of Finance and myself to meet so that we can have CUC receive the money directly.
To do that.
So those things were all ongoing until.
And when you left and when you came back, they're all gone.
Yeah, apparently the ARPA funds were, I guess,
Evaporated somehow?
or sublimed.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Any other members? Let me recognize Leader Roy.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here, you and your team. Very insightful so far. My question was actually also related to Homestead. Well, a lot of my the questions that I had, the thought that I had was already answered, but just for the community to and the members here to understand, what is the size of the operation of Homestead program? I mean, surveyors and the Homestead program in DPL.
So right now for Homestead, we only have 3 employees and 1 director. And all those employees, one of them goes out and visit every permittee on Saipan. So same thing on Tinian and Rota. So on Tinian, there's 1 permittee there. On Rota, there's none for Homestead. Oh yes, there's 1 for Homestead. So their job is to just go out and make sure the permittee is in compliance. Okay, that's 1 person. The other 2 ladies, at least on Saipan, and similarly to Tinian and Rota, which is a one-man show, they also do not have enough staff. They review on a daily basis, monthly basis, all the applicants on Saipan. There's about 2,500 plus of applicants. They've already reviewed half. So every day they review and compare the applicants since 1997 to 98 to the court papers to see if these people purchased any lands or not, so that they can get on the eligibility list for a lottery that for a new homestead that may or may never happen. But that's what they're doing every day. So they're working full time.
Okay, thank you. So when you guys do start the homestead program and to survey, especially on undeveloped land, like you said earlier, the access to do the survey requires, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of resources. Is the DPL team for homestead and surveyors on Saipan cater to the entire Sinamay? Because I know that when they were going to open Pagan, they had to stop whatever task they had here to travel to Pagan to survey and divvy out the lots. And then same goes when they have to do it for Tinian and they have to go to Rhoda. Well, what I'm trying to get at is that, is it only here in the Saipan, the team, are there other teams on Tinian and Rhoda? Or is there just one team that goes from island to island?
Very good question, Congressman. Thank you very much. So the Department of Public Lands is headquartered in Saipan. Tinian and Rhoda has a Tinian and Rhoda office. And in that office, you have a director for each office. And then depending on availability of FTEs and the volume of work, you have either an agricultural homestead permittee or a specialist in those offices. So Tinian only has 2 to 3 employees. Rhoda has about 2 to 3 employees as well. So on Saipan, for everything that Rhoda or Tinian does not have, every division on Saipan is supporting all those offices through the Secretary's office. So planning is responsible for all the planning, all the lands, all the public lands, all the surveying. So they survey Tinian and Rhoda. Tinian and Rhoda does not have any survey employees, right? So when it comes to homestead, homestead is not involved in any homestead property until the property is ready to be lotteried.
Okay.
So Director Pat does all the measuring, all the surveys for a site that we've selected, and at the same time, all land compensation, land exchange sites, her staff handles all that. So any land, even TOAs, any lease that needs to be remeasured for all the agreements, it's the responsibility of planning. So they're really, that's why every time I talk about budget, it's funding this office,
Okay.
giving them all the resources.
So clarified. Okay, so now that I know that. So in planning, how many staff do you have?
Pat, do you have it top of your head, or do you want me to?
Mm-hmm. 30?
Team of 7 right now.
7, that's underground
on the ground for
Okay.
survey.
And then you have the
And
other
it
remaining for
depends, yeah.
administrative and, okay,
It depends on the urgency and the magnitude of the project. Sometimes we will split into two and have them tackle partial for Rhoda, partial for Tinian. If it's urgent, then the entire group goes there. But they're never there for 2 weeks because Saipan is very demanding as well. So we would send them a week to Rhoda, come back here a week, go to Tinian a week, and it just rotates.
Right,
And
right.
it depends again on the urgency.
okay. And I'm getting to my budget question here soon. So I see it, I see there's, based on salary and position and all that stuff, I see that they're one of the lowest paying positions. Are
Yes.
they, do they get compensated for overtime or when they travel? Or, because I do know that they also, you guys also utilize them to staff for maintenance and security in the current hotels that you guys are actually managing. So do these individuals get, or anybody in DPO get paid overtime?
It depends on the volume of work that they have. If it's something that they could go and assist with, maintenance or security, they would go. But we don't have the funding for overtime, so we don't do that.
Okay, so, I mean, maybe just a suggestion. I think because there's a team of a few, right? And there's 7 individuals that have to survey and do all the work. And it's not easy to go in a jungle, especially heavy debris, and you're gonna try and get the right coordinates for what you're gonna portion out. And we're not talking about just 100 square meters. We're talking about thousands, acres, and 7 people doing this just so that we can, hopefully get our homestead and start building our homes and, instead of overtime, maybe also consider increasing their salary, because I see there's a huge discrepancy from these guys and the work that they do, and I just feel that, with what they are doing, maybe just a little.
Thank you very much for that question. One on overtime. Of course, the directors don't handle overtime. I handle it.
Okay.
So when it comes to the maintenance and security guards, if we need help and overtime is to be expended, I have to write a letter to the governor first for his approval. So I've done a few of that, especially for Kanoa. But it's in a very rare occasion. So we do give those opportunities, but very rare. As far as personnel, you're very right to bring that up. I've spoken to Pat and discussed this. We'd like to increase the salaries or move the categories for the personnel. Unfortunately, there's not enough FTEs. And so I was talking to the directors that if only prior secretary funded FTEs with just $1, so that if I'm able to find money, I can do a change, because we can recategorize a NOP without an FTE to recategorize it. So they're almost locked in. There's 5 FTEs, only 5. How do I do a promotion? There has to be an FTE that has a bigger positions to be promoted into. So I've discussed that with them, that the only time maybe I can help them out is not until FY27 on my way out, when I submit a budget for FY27 and hopefully add those things in there. But so now we've been just playing with whatever FTEs we have by moving them around. But it is in our intention to promote the personnel of planning, because it's a very dangerous job. The last time they went down to Rhoda and even to Nian, they got injured.
Yeah.
Injury is very common. And so it's a very stressful job. And as I was trying to explain about that Castizo, that entire forest on Castizo is prone to accidents.
Yeah.
And these boys that are out there perspiring, of course, we have to pay them proper. But unfortunately, currently they're limited because of non-availability of an FTE to be able to create a promotion access.
Thank you, Secretary and Director Rosa. The only reason why I bring this up is because, just like what you stated, if they get injured, then it's less, then it delays, then it costs more, then time passes and it costs more. And then, I mean, even for me, I actually signed up 98, 97, 98, and I was waiting, but you know, not unfortunately, but fortunately I got married and my wife has property. Now I don't qualify, so, you know, so I just think that, I just feel that I don't want the next generation to go through all this stuff, and we're here today to affect, you know, positive change and fix these things. So I feel like we need to invest in things where we can make it efficient. Just like what you said, you're overwhelmed, you're doing 2-3 jobs, you know, with one position. So I just feel like if we address the issues and even compensate them better, we would see a lot more, you know, positive outcomes. And, you know, again, I'm not saying that you guys are not doing your job. You guys are doing great. That's why I just feel like bringing this up to the attention of the members and the community, that all those factors about, you know, that things that you have to do left and right and everybody pulling you, is that people need to understand too that, you know, you're limited in some areas. And if we could just address those things, then maybe we can get a lot of things moving. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you, Leader Roy. Just one question again to OMB. Just looking at the worksheet of the employees, there are several that does not have any allocation percentage, allocation salary, total fringe benefits. Just looking at my notes, what is this? Can you clarify on that? Just there's only a couple of them, probably 4, 5.
So in the current fiscal year, these positions are cost shared between the Department of Finance and DPL, with only a percentage of their salaries charged to each office. I believe it was 5% for Department of Finance for current year, and the remaining would be at DPL. However, beginning this fiscal year, we proposed that these positions to be fully funded under the Department of Finance. This change was made to provide greater flexibility in task assignments, allowing these individuals to not only do DPL-related duties, but also finance-related duties.
So are you alluding to the one I'm alluding, which is accountant 3?
Correct.
And then clerk 1. And then we have further down on a division director. Wow. A
And
division
that-
director?
Yeah, I want to say that may have been an error. We should keep that at 5% for the director. I want to just speak up for the clerks, because they do cashier jobs under the Department of Finance.
Okay,
And they were only accepting payments for just DPL.
right.
So I believe what the Secretary of
Right.
Finance wanted is so that they could also receive other payments, not just for DPL, but for other fees
Okay,
collected.
so just for clarity, just looking at the worksheet, since it's not reflective on the worksheet for DPO under allocation percent, allocation salary, and total fringe benefits, so perhaps you're saying that on the worksheet of Department of Finance is where it's reflective
Correct.
for these individuals. Okay,
Yes.
so clarified. Did you want it to chime in, Tipati?
Can I just clarify something
Yeah, go
else? So what they proposed for those individuals at 100%, those fundings are still in the Department of Land, DPL, but in the professional service area. We moved those funding to professional services.
Okay, so clarified. For follow-up question, let me recognize the Vice Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Chad, just, can you run that through again? You're putting,
So
put-
whatever they proposed to fund those 4 individuals, that funding was moved to the professional services object.
which is that $500,000+ that DPO is putting for professional services?
It's inclusive of that, yes.
Okay, so how are you charging professional services when they're line item government employees?
No, it's not to pay those individuals. It's just to move those funds that were available after making them 100% in the Department of Finance.
Okay, so the total amount of these 4 employees is roughly, if we're including the division director, maybe close to 300 some thousand dollars. That's
Maybe
finance is going to inherit cost.
maybe 100,000.
100,000.
I could get that information for you and provide it.
And all of these employees, they're all DC plan members, or are any of them a DB plan member?
Let me pull up the Department of Finance and I'll get that
Yeah,
information for you.
if that's possible. So under the budget though, we'll go back to the $526,000. You remove those positions from DPL, but yet at the same time you're telling DPL to use it for professional services when they can use it for something else.
Correct.
That's not very good. That's not nice at all. That's their money. You know, I think they should be flexible with their funds. You shouldn't take away employees and then at the same time tell them how to use the money. Oh, we'll get to that point, right? You should be flexible with your funds, but I think I mean, we'll just get that on a later note. But I think that would actually balloon the cost of finance at the end by roughly those 3 positions. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you, Vice. So that request, we can get it on a later date. Any further from the members? Let me recognize Representative Denita Yangtimay.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, DPL members. I noticed that you have been paying utilities, right? So, okay. So are you also paying rent? Okay, is that the same for Road and Tinian also? Okay, so is it very hard for your office to be moved to one or more of these resorts we have? So, right, to save rent and, I don't know, rent off some spaces and get utility money or something? Just asking.
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. Has crossed our mind, and we try our best to balance the other mandate of DPO aside from homestead real estate in trying to make money at the same time for the MPOT, for the NMDs. And so Kanoa crossed my mind about us entering. But I think generally, whenever a government agency occupies an infrastructure, public land that can be used for real estate, I think it kind of lessens the generation of revenue for DPO and the NMDs. And so as much as I'd like to move into Kanoa, for example, as you're requesting, I think it requires us trying to do RFPs as well. When the golf course became vacant next to McDonald, when I was secretary, we did our best to clean that area up so that we can build our public lands there. Then through negotiations, because of ARPA and all the movements of CUC and ASCONA infrastructures, we decided to give CUC that area for their expansion of the warehouse. And so we never moved in there. So I think if in the future, if we actually find something that can be good for DPO, we'll go ahead. On Tinian, when I went down there last week, we went over to the Tinian Dynasty Hotel, and I informed the acting director to initiate a invoice to clean up the public land portion of the hotel, and at the same time, especially the commercial building that's on public land to the right side entry of that hotel for us to occupy it. So we'll be doing an RFP potentially to enter that building. And that would be something that we can add into our request for some administrative provisions to allow us to spend money to renovate that building in front of Tinian Dynasty for us to enter. At the same time, for Rhoda, we were eyeing I think it was Plumeria or whichever is this, and Gizaluta, that hotel that's abandoned, to see if we can enter there as well. So DPO is mindful of trying to save money. But unfortunately, to build a new construct, I think under Secretary Tregezo, when she was secretary, she tried to get federal funds to build the public land facility here on Capitol Hill on the way up to Montepocho. But I think she spent all the money for the A&E on that, but the funding failed. So if DPO is able to get funding, I've already asked our grant writer, who is in-house DPO, to look into the other federal grants, federal agencies, to see if we can get money to build a structure for DPO somewhere. So currently, there's no potential land except whatever Teregezo identified here on the way up to Marpi. Yeah, Caprio, not Marpi, on the way up to Montepocho, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Denita Yangtimay. Any further? Let me recognize Representative Roma Benavente.
Thank you, Chairman and Secretary. Congratulations for your appointment.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here with us to answer some questions. And it seems like I like to go back in time with regards to DPL. And I know you weren't in when this situation happens. No, tado ka bifin tomorrow, no?
Okay.
No. For example, ije manyagahan na tono. Yun mandated by constitution na indigenous property. It's truly indigenous property because umensiona ha, yes, Richard. Medyo. Kumpanya ni ilisi ne sa ita lesser silisi ne al kikila ito sa malago na pero sulit todo exclusivity todo dalon managaho lo tisinya to unlimit lo ki ito tono sa gwasya vendors to tono man manonay ne pusijigi na confrontation masusedi gini gimapos inimbrasa lo ki legislatura ne. That's the main issue. Ini na umahay ji ikausan niya. Dasiga di mamunguji lo. Zao na be faisi nam dyan kumusinya na holo ni no mas regulation. Ja in-enforce manisinya. Da mga malimit lo ki tono. Tileku mga malimit tono na pofan maktugat. Jigi leleku mga malimit na pofan maktugat lo angin siya kausun man apply lo ki no concessionaire ne. Debi di inatan of the mano data considera lo ki sa gasya lo ki tota. Ja smarts naman malagwit para ta ajuday public land do famatinas sa lokpi. Famatinas kubli ni. Gininijong na investor. At the same token, loki mga man malifan ito tota. Sa Aguasya, giniloki man business, they're making ends meet for their family. Kasi noa, mas da hululu, jao besang onyo, ebe faisinam din no. Ta sinya ta duday man mamela sa ti para itas tini mangagi gini pare famagunta. Di man mamela. Sa moling na matuto sa at least na klaristi sa kumusinya insegir regulation sa inaholo nino so waha mas formalidad what distinction between the outside investor sa ni tototono sa waha loki collaboration dan wa na famulig ni sinya man matsusu pareo eno wa jao pa be faisino no Mr. Secretary of opinion mo go ahead and sangan ujung lo man makonfront namin no ti un tauto wa kumonfront namin lamigaya si Jesus Masi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jesus Masi, Congressman. Besaga mo pigi fina merkonu sa klan tingke mek close mo fina sa moru sa klan go lo besaga to manusia torinos the currently ni dinanchawa I think we just need to make a policy decision. Do you want Manyagaha to be the way it is right now with the relationship? Or do you want us to pull back and we self-manage? Sa sensinya ha, manusinya, either left or right. Sa ani pabidingo mo public land during COVID, right? The Tazaloki concessionaire. We ran Manyagaha Island. Public land directly operated Manyagaha since July or August all the way until I left. Law, it comes with a cost. It was the budget that the Secretary of Finance gave me through ARPA was about $300,000, and that was to be exhausted by January of that year. And so we can run it, you can operate it, but it comes with a lot of management and just so much complication. You just have to make sure you're on top of the game to be able to do it. Currently, we lease out the exclusive zone. That's the only one we lease out. And nobody else can make business in that zone but them. And no one else can do business around with license Manyagaha. No one. But surely there's gray areas where anybody can go there and pick off customers. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's already understood, right? But if we want to go back where we self-manage it, if the policy is to go that way, we can do it. If we want to continue today, we'll continue today. And I think there's a lot more details on issues, but I hope that makes sense. And there's no limitation to any local to visit Manyagaha Island. You can go there. Only tourists are paying landing fees. The only nominal charges we charge people to go there for camping is to make sure we can get some money to pay for maintenance purposes and for the generator and for the water. And Manyagaha Island, if we don't manage it properly, and that's why we kind of like entice these investors to come in, because they have to run the sewer system and the generator. And that's a lot of money based on our experience in trying to self-manage it. Even right now, with the security guard and cleaning, wala siya parts man majadzamak, we have to find a way, and we can't just outright go and get a part, because finance has a procedure on ITB, and if I ITB somebody and then a part breaks down, I mean, those things gets complicated. I'm not an expert on how finance handles the procurement section. Lo, Congressman, for your, we are highly favorable. Our people is always the first priority. NMD is our first priority. If you're trying to allude to for us to self-manage, that's possible. If we don't want any private business to manage it, where we self-manage, and we're currently, public land is allowing vendors to be on Manyagaha through relationship with DPO, screening, vetting. Currently, that's allowable.
Right.
And once this new lessee comes in, we will stop all those, and the lessee will handle on the exclusive zone.
Okay, the reason why I mentioned that is, yeah, you're right. Prior, when DPO first started, no, Managwaniji, Manyagaha Rangers, right? They're the one that's more or less like overseeing the place, the cleanliness, the whatnot that they do. They monitor the collections of the landing fees and stuff like that. I don't know with the company, you know, the exclusivity of the company that wanted to operate, or the one had operated before. And that's the reason why I'm asking is that if we give also the exclusivity for the company to be the one collecting the landing fees and whatnot, DPO is losing money. CNMI is losing money. The indigenous people are losing money. And the reason why I say that, in the past we practiced that. And I understand the way you say the maintenance and the cost of operations and whatnot that we have. But it is always best that if such company wants to invest on something that they want to, you know, realize their proceeds later on in the future, as much money that they would realize, then I think they should be able to spend more of the infrastructure that is needed for them to generate funds. And that should be also in the agreement that in an event that they want to do like the hotels over here in the past, for example, I'll give you one example, Corrosion Point. When they first started Corrosion Point, they had to run their own electricity. They ordered a generator, they brought in their own generator, they owned their power and everything, they run the hotel. And they expected that. But they made their money. And then they sold out the company. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. You know, I'm not trying to say, tell you guys what to do or whatnot. I'm just trying to see how you can realize this kind to the point where, you know, I mean, mga natapatafan malingon Ezi leleku sa ista. Ang ginista mga manohoho tau-tauta gisanidjong kus kumikeling yan nagwa problema. When the dog is barking, you know there's probably somebody around the house that's prowling around. So that's why I say it that way, that fashion. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not in any way trying to hostile in a fashion where to make you guys feel uncomfortable. I'm just saying the reality what we had in the past, Secretary, and if I offend or anything, just for what I said, please, but realize also that, I'm just saying it in the right. Si just must
Yes.
Just for clarity, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Ngan magoy ni antis guasa jonya drama is the landing fee. Lo currently since I was there and I'm sure during Marion's time, all landing fee mo na pa public land.
Right.
All of them. And I know we generally, and it's in our budget, we generate approximately about $1 million a year.
And your people are the one who's collecting it as we
Yes.
speak.
And also, and that's in a downtime. Imagine that, the tourism is not up, it's very low, but we're making good revenue out of it.
Right.
And so that's the fund that's helping us out to take care of the maintenance, the bathrooms, the sewer system. And also, because we are managing this, we have to report to the federal agencies to make sure we are EPA qualified.
Right.
Every month we're testing that. Every month we send it to CUC and DEQ for testing. So for clarity, that landing fee never goes to anyone. However, through some business arrangements with the lessees, wahagi na agreement between public land and the lessee. Because if you really put yourself as the businessman on that place, there's really no way you can make money unless
Right.
somebody buys from you. So we shared, we co-shared.
Right.
Na estigya no na kampo, estia, logalem agreement debinu na regla todo, una gasgas todo. So through that arrangement, we are offsetting the cost of maintenance. Tagi magasta para i generator, the sewer system, all those. There's percentages already in the agreement that we cost share. So if they spend $1 for something, some are 50%, some are 60, 40, depending. If they spend $1, we reimburse them 50 cents.
Right.
Like that. So that's built in.
But just for clarity, since we're in this discussion, Mr. Secretary, so when you mentioned the exclusive zone, right, the concessionary, does that encompasses the waters as well?
Ahi.
Ahi, no? So, Sinya, Manyatauta, our people can go through the waters adjacent to where the concessionary exclusive zone freely.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no exclusive zone for swimming. There is a swimming zone to make sure people only swim in that area. Though, of course, our people who are adventurous. They don't swim in the swimming zone. But for the tourists, to make sure we control for lifeguard purposes, na guagista boundary na manomaka as much as possible. Because
But it's not part of the exclusive
no.
concessionary zone.
it's
The waters adjacent to it.
no, it's not.
Okay.
We only control land. We don't control submerged land. That's the
And the
element.
reason why I ask is that, the previous concessionaire was actually denying our people to even swim on that area, which is kind of
No.
very disturbing. But at least you made it very clear that the exclusive zone does not encompasses the waters adjacent to it.
Thank you. We don't.
Yeah. Let me recognize Representative TJ Manglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning again, Secretary and team. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Just kind of piggybacking on what Rep. Benavente said, and just a suggestion. that I was just thinking about, and I don't know if it's been brought up in the past, but maybe if we could allow maybe like temporary vendors on the island, like kind of something like how they do a street market, right? Where I know that it's costly to run it on our own, and that's why we try to get the exclusive vendor there. But giving our locals an opportunity to kind of capitalize on the tourists that are there, maybe designating an area to where you could do a pop up, or something on the weekends where they could go there and sell merchandise. I'm not too sure if that's something that's been discussed or if that's something that's allowed, but that was just something that just popped up in my head right now, just to kind of open it up, right, to give those opportunities to some of our small local vendors that do want to sell on the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Those things have been in our discussion, even in our negotiations, but in trying to keep the corners of this agreement intact as much as possible, the discussions were to allow that if there's anything like Indigenous Affairs or CAO, that they should collaborate and coordinate with the vendor that's there to make those happen. But as far as going outside of that zone, that's something we can discuss. I'm sure time has changed, but in the past, the negotiations on Manyagaha to go from conservation to tourism, well, I'm sure it was a very sensitive issue, and to make sure that all commercial aspects on Manyagaha stays in that box that whomever our negotiators, leaders back then decided. And so that's why there has never been any business outside of that box, that zone. So everything is in there. So when we were managing it, and I am sure we also in agreement that we say that the vendor must coordinate with these offices, and they do have spaces for gift shops or whatever to occur. As far as actually allowing somebody, I think maybe we should have IAO and CAO be involved in finding ways to make this work and discuss with us so we can come up with a good plan so it does not get out of hand, meaning the commercial aspect does not start expanding towards the middle and east part of the island. Because we know we have Ahurub on the east side, and that's supposed to be sacred for that clan. And so we keep the business transactions on the left. So I think it's a good discussion. I'm not saying we're not favorable, but we've discussed it before. But through negotiations, the vendor is also being adamant to make sure that they don't have any further competition, otherwise they'll lose revenue. But it's a good discussion. Hopefully we can continue on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Han. Ayo, thank you.
Thank you, Representative TJ Malonia. Any further? Let me recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, stay pabifaisanos the agriculture tinian. Is there any date or any specific date ni pro issuance or staan ma issue?
So Tinian, thank you, Congressman. Tinian has two. There's a village homestead and there's agricultural homestead. So the village homestead, I can touch on that if there's time. But on the agricultural homestead, we're supposed to start as soon as I came back in April. But we discovered that there's no access. Even if we lottery and start giving up permits, there's no way that people can go there. So the only delay is we've partnered with the mayor of Tinian to see how he can make use of the military support to push those areas. So unfortunately, with the passing of our director in Tinian, kind of slowed things down, but I need to re-jumpstart it with the current acting, and we need to strategize. In other words, for us, we're supposed to start already, but we're waiting for access roads for the people.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary. But I believe that the military, Mayor Don, the military are, collaborating with doing the access road for the DPO to be able to do their assessment with that. Is that really going to cut down the time for the issuance of that lots?
Yes, that place has been waiting for a long time. Before I left, we finalized the A&E cost for the surveyors to go in there. We had to use some private companies as well to go in. And so Pat and her team should be going down to Tinian hopefully within 3 months. I'm saying 3 months because government is just inherently slow. So hopefully they'll be done though within 2 to 3 months for her team to go down there and assess. And before Tinian can actually do a lottery on the agricultural homestead, her division needs to write it off, meaning give the directive that is now clear and ready for you to proceed to the next stage, which is lottery. So I was targeting May, June, July. So now it's like we're having setbacks. So hopefully we'll find out more before the end of September 30, Congressman. I'm saying that timeline just to be realistic, but hopefully before the road gets covered again. And I need to get a report next time I see Mayor of Tinian to find out how far, because based on ocular view when I was down there, I couldn't really make my own assessment. All I saw were some roads were actually made and some were not. So tutungo ko gagwaha tempo o gagwaha kaskog sa Tinian, or did the project stop? So I have yet to have a briefing from the mayor. Maybe once I meet the leadership on Tinian, I can have a better answer.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Bulak Askaw, actually, Bulak Askaw. Thank you for your answer. Mr. Chairman, ayo.
Yeah, just for clarity on the questions, Mr. Secretary, on Rep. Patrick San Nicolas, is that the homestead part of is ready to be lotteried, right? It's the agriculture that's not ready because of access. Is that just so we're making it clear here? Or both doesn't have access?
The Guasia, Polo Taguini, Marpo Heights are ready. Low, we have a temporary setback sa pudirason Guajalok Kisti Homestead Barangka. Jagi Barangka gi antis manmanoy sa tauto lottery profan manoy homestead. Lo for some reason manapara. Without going into details, manapara. Pas matu San Jose Homestead manmanoy niubusan na tauto permit. Basta pago man gay tonus ti siya tauto. Lo di siya Barangka disti pago manananga ko pumababa pat ahi. So that's why, through my discussion with the leadership of Mayor, we are ironing some things out first to clarify and confirm. Na kamuti patapatsasta Barangka, pas ben konito siya manmanoy Barangka, sabi na phone na siya Marpo Heights.
Okay, so clarified.
I can have Pat, Chair.
Oh
if you
yeah,
don't mind.
please.
She's the
Yeah.
expert in that area.
So originally, Barangka, it's actually called Kanyadan Makpo. There was an issue with permitting, and we didn't want to wait too long. So what we did was worked on the Marpo Heights homestead, and it came up to 446 lots because we wanted to accommodate those that had pulled for Kanyadan Makpo. So that 446 will satisfy Kanyadan Makpo and all those scattered lots outside. We figure infrastructure-wise, it will be smarter for us that we can save money by putting it all in Marple Heights. So they're all accommodated. However, there are still those that have been pulled, about 100 some, that if we continue with the Kanyadan Makpo, it'll satisfy all the pending applicants in Tinian. But the only reason why we're not moving with Marple Heights is, again, it's the access. But we've been working collaboratively with the Office of the Mayor. They're the ones who did Castizo, and they're making arrangements with the military again to see if they could do Marple Heights as well. So we're pretty good when it comes to Tinian and Rhoda. Rhoda, the agricultural homestead is the hardest because it starts from Mas Nieves all the way up to Dugi, and they're all 10,000 square meters. It's a massive project.
Thank you for that response and clarification to the body. I know that we're reaching the 12 o'clock mark, so let me take two more questions. Let me recognize Representative Joe Flores and then Representative Ralph Nemo.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Secretary. My question is just to update or anything going on with Maniagaha. Remember there was a news regarding the invested birds there in Maniagaha. There's something becoming to a nuisance ready for Maniagaha.
Generally for public land, if I may speak as the Secretary of Public Land, I don't know what the question is on the birds. Meaning to say, I have an island, it has birds, there's a lease, an RFP, and that's the way it is. If anything else is going to happen, I think it's outside of my jurisdiction. Whether a bird is on the land or not, I think it's someone else. But to answer, I don't know how to answer that except for me personally on my views as secretary, there's nothing I can do with the bird. They're there. And so I'll leave that up to whomever wants to be concerned about it. I have no answer.
Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, maybe. No, I mean, if you wanna, Congressman, I'm not quite sure what the question is, but I was there and there's a lot of birds, and when I saw it, I was so happy. It was so beautiful. I took videos. Then all of a sudden, I saw articles that, oh my gosh, these things are not beautiful, so I don't know.
You still have the floor, Representative Joe Flores.
Yeah, that's just what I was concerned to, just for whoever's gonna come and do business there is gonna say, well, what about the birds? Anything could happen, any restriction, because that actually those, I don't know where that bird comes, you can see those in Dan, everywhere they're migrating the flame trees.
We'll leave that up to the lessee and because in our lease agreements, the lessee, just because I give you the land to lease, it does not mean you can do whatever you want. You have to abide by all government laws, constitution and everything. So if you're gonna do anything with those birds, I think they have some rights before you move them, so.
Right.
You deal with the regulators.
Yes.
But will it be possible, is there an update listing of, how many public lands has been leased to a private citizen? So that we know who's leasing who? Because there's a lot of government property that has been leased, and this is this conversation from that there's government property been leased, and then they sublease it again. And the purpose of that is the indigenous listed for its purpose, but they ended up releasing it to another one. So we just want to know, is there any update or what's the list?
You mean public land?
Yeah, the public land that are being leased to a private citizens, or anybody that's leased a public property.
Congressman, any public land, there's approximately, I think, 10% of all public lands in the CNMI, 10% of them are leased for use by businessmen, about 10%, for commercial use. So we do have a listing in real estate. I brought that issue up before. We don't have them available online, but I think it's just a matter of me working with our AAG, just to see how transparent can we be, right? There's a lot of questions about sensitivity of data. But our data, because of lack of software, like I was mentioning earlier, we don't have a software. We're using only Access and Excel. And so we can make those available to you. What information I shall release, I'm not sure whether their full company name, but I'm sure I can give you the lots and areas and where and types of business. But I'd like to find with our council how much of that data can we just share with you. But we have those numbers. Or on our land use plan, Spencer. Or we have a land use plan, you can see it online as well, that at least gives you generally how many lands are on private, but not who is on there.
Thank you, Secretary. You still have the floor, Rep. Okay, let me recognize Representative Ralph Yumo.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I'm being delegated to ask a question by the Chairman with regards to royalty and I guess the issue with each representative have, is it 100 cubic yards or some weird with regards to the quarries? Is there any update?
Yeah, so I came on board and, it has always been there. There's, in all quarry TOAs between DPO and we use lessee for now, but it's a TOA. There's always a public benefit of amount of aggregate to be given to the government at large. So it does not specify whether it's mayor or a congressman or a senator. It's to the government of approximately 100 cubic yards. And so just last week, I finalized my own internal, just trying to be proactive. I did an SOP, and it's really complicated. But I did an SOP breakdown overview of how to manage this. So it's additional tasks that somebody's going to have to pick up in public lands. And it's whereby, because there's so many issues called Mananay Quarry, Uzug, Kaskaparay. So the idea would be to create all these request forms. Bureaucracies, basically, is what I'm about to create. A bureaucracy of any government agency, whether the mayor or the congressman or the senator wants to, or the governor, once aggregate for public use, you must go DPL and you must fill out this form and I must concur, and then you will go to the quarry company and they will checklist and they will put down how much they're giving you CY wise, and then the agency will confirm. And that's the only way I'm thinking of fixing this drama. And the drama is, kung mananay kaskaw par ahi. So if I want to be meticulous about it, then we have to use it. Otherwise, right now, like before, it's ano azul fangago, ano. So now somebody's saying they're not getting. So I'm not sure how else to measure it. But all quarry companies are paying BGR on their sales, and they're also paying $1 to $3 on royalty fees for every CY. So that's additional. And those things anybody can always OGA, or the house can request for it, and we can give you a listing of all quarry companies with their revenues, at least the fees they're paying us, so you can see it in the volume.
Thank you, Secretary. And I guess with all the rains, we're gonna be getting calls from Chalangalai and Chalanquis. So these are the number one hotspots that we're gonna have to prepare for again.
So in some of the portion of this SOP that I'm trying to create, Congressman, is there will be where a standard normal day you request. Once the 100 is capped, it's capped. These quarries will not give it out anymore for free. You have to buy it. But in there's a certain section of an emergency been declared. If it's a declaration of emergency for whatever flood or whatever, then the quarry companies must give all these things out and account for them. However, it doesn't mean it's free. It means whomever is receiving all this Cascao agency, they must somehow account for them so that whatever funding is going to come, these quarry companies will get paid either through FEMA or through the local, however. But it's to open that. So now with all this rain, and I understand, I see how much gravel has to be poured down there. 100 CY, Guawa mismo just ordering afazi, 10 CY, I see the truck, right? I'm like, 10, 100, and fata des timote, pang, right? Pang 100 CY, just one road in Chalanquiza, especially with the flood going on up there. So I don't know how, but that's the number that the regulation is at right now is 100 CY, but I know it's not enough. Do we increase it? I think we all need to have a discussion on how much pressure we're going to give the investor, the one doing the quarry, because I know it's not cheap to push out 100 CY of aggregate.
But can we have that clarification, Mr. Secretary? 100 CY per quarry business?
Quarry only. Yeah,
Per quarry per year.
Per the businessman per year.
So
The quarry operator.
So there's several, right? Quarry
Yes.
operators, right? So we're talking 500. So 100 each, right?
Yes.
That's the SOP. And then can we get more clarity when you say each congressman, each senator, so each of us can request 500, or just we go by the department or the branch?
That was never an issue before, Congressman, but I received a communication within my emails or a letter whereby somebody was asking me for concurrence to authorize a quarry to go to a precinct. And so that's why I was like, before, in my mind, it was just the mayor.
Right.
But I don't know who started getting scientific with some calculus to now start saying, oh, the mayor, oh, good lucky congressman. I think, as a congressman, I need to get free too. So it's getting convoluted, right? So I don't know anymore. All I know is that it goes to the government for public use. And the mayor has been the one we all know who's using that benefit.
Right.
But now other government agencies are saying, I'm also needing it for public use.
Right. And the SOP that you're creating now to kind of put more clarity moving forward with this quarry.
It's a management SOP bureaucracy, Chair. It's almost this thick. And I sent to the directors. I said, can you review it? I'm sure they don't want to look at it, but it's just another bureaucracy, and somebody else in public land needs to be answering phone every day. I need Cascao, okay? Check mark.
Okay. Thank you for that
And
response.
if
Go
I
ahead.
may, for clarification, it's only the raw material, not processed material.
Which is base core, right? Base core, yes. So clarified. Rep Yumo, you still have the floor. Are there any? Okay, let me recognize Representative Adenita Yankto.
Sorry, yes, just to go back about accessibility. I know I asked this 1 million years ago, and this landowner is still asking, I guess for clarification, because she needed someone to to clear the way to her homestead in Cagman. Yes, homestead. So from the main road to her
Property.
homestead, it's jungle. So who is going to clear that? Is it DPW or DPL?
So firstly, DPO does not give lands to people if it's landlocked and you have no access. So there should have been access unless this is, we don't give homesteads with no access, right? And so unless this homestead is a variation of an Homestead Waiver Act where they requested to be given the title to it and then DPO proceeding forth but not having access. But as far as access road to any land, we don't do it. If you need access road, that's DPW right of way.
Yeah.
You have to work with them. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Denita Yangtamay. Are there any further? If there is no further questions from the members, at this time, Mr. Secretary, and to your team, on behalf of the Committee on Ways and Means, I extend our gratitude and appreciation for you folks for coming before us and answering our questions and expressing the visions and concerns of the department itself moving forward. So with that, I'll give you the last words for your closing remarks. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Congressman, Chairman, and Vice Chair, and members, honorable members of this committee. As stated, we've taken note. We will submit to you documents that you've requested. And similarly, I highly ask for your support for our budget. And if there's anything, we've submitted our budget in this package FY 2026. That is the budget we're looking at. If any form of variations have to change in this, please let us know before you guys approve the overall budget from your end. I just want to make sure, because there were discussions about MOAs and stuff like that.
Right.
But we adjust our budget according to public land budget. Any other MOAs is not inclusive in our budget.
Okay.
Those things are outside.
Duly noted. And did your department distribute to every member that booklet of because what we have before us is all the information from OMB, so perhaps that's actually, and if you're in liberty to share that with us, maybe we can ask the Bureau staff to make those copies for the other members.
And maybe share with us what you have, because maybe we're looking at two different numbers.
Right,
or
so what
categories.
we have before us, if your department hasn't submitted to the legislature your request, what we have before us is what the proposal of the governor that was submitted here to the legislature. So perhaps you guys have, brought your request to the administration, but your request, yes, it's noted what you request, but the details there that you have should be helpful to this body if you're in liberty to share those documents to us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So with that, members, that leads us to our next order of business, and that is announcement. And at this time, I want to announce to the viewing public who are watching and remind our members that tomorrow we have the judicial branch at 9:30 here in the House chamber. So with that, we move now to our last order of business, and that is adjournment, and the chair will now adjourn this budget hearing. Thank you, members.